from the end of Masechet Beitzah, that the different religious.
So as we close out the Mishnah of Moed Katan, we're transitioning from issues of intermediate days of festivals to issues related to mourning. And remember, we said that the connection is not obvious, but perhaps it's because a mourner doesn't carry out anything that is not absolutely necessary. And similarly, on the intermediate days of festivals, we don't carry out action, we don't do work that's not absolutely necessary. So the last half of the final chapter of Moed Katan then focuses on more laws of mourning. And we learn, of course, there's still an interrelationship with festivals. And we learned yesterday that there are there's a limitation, there's a diminution of mourning activities when the death actually occurs on the festival. And the Mishnah, the 8th Mishnah in the 3rd chapter, will just pick up this theme. Ein manichem et hamita barachov shelo lahargil et hahesped. They don't put the bier, the bed. I mean, mita literally is a bed, but this is a bier. This is it's something they're carrying the dead person on. They don't put the bier down on the street so as not to encourage eulogies. So in the time of the Mishnah, they'd carry the dead person wrapped in shrouds, not in a coffin, but just in shrouds, and they'd carry him on a bier, and then they would put him down in the street, and the eulogies would be given in the street. We're not going to make eulogies on Chol HaMoed. So on Chol HaMoed, we're not going to put the bier down in the street so as not to encourage them. And then the Mishnah continues, Velo shel nashim lo'olam mipnei hakavod. And those of women, biers of women, are never set down. This is a halacha that is quite independent of Chol HaMoed. They are never set down mipnei hakavod, for the sake of their honor. We don't understand what this, it's not clear what this honor is. The Bartanura says that the Bartanura suggests that there's some difference between women and men. And he said, on the word never, we never set the bier down. He says, afilu b'chol, in other words, even on an ordinary day, dichtiv, and he quotes there from the death of Miriam, vatamot sham Miriam, vatikaver sham. Miriam died there and was buried there. The burial is juxtaposed to the death. And the Bartanura seems to be saying, by the way, that in the time of the Mishnah, they would not make a eulogy for a woman who'd passed away. They would make a eulogy for a man, but not for a woman. And we might find this very, very puzzling. And it's interesting, the Gemara rather contradicts this idea. The Gemara teaches, Velo shel nashim olam, and the biers of women are never set down, mipnei hakavod, due to their honor. And now they're going to quote the sages of Nehardea. Nehardea was the location of an important yeshiva in Babylon. So now we're in Babylon now. We're not in Eretz Yisrael. This is a memory of their practice. Maybe it reflects, by the way, the practice in Babylon. But anyway, Amru Nehardea, the sages of Nehardea taught, Lo shanu eila chaya. They only taught this with regard to a woman who died in childbirth. They seem to be worried about bleeding. So remember that the Mishnah said, mipnei hakavod, because of their honor. I think they seem to be anxious that a woman, and Rashi comments this, that a woman who's died in childbirth is still bleeding. And it's not considered honorable to her to, if you like, stop in the street and possibly have drops of blood spill on the street as she's lying there. So that seems to be the idea of the sage of Nehardea. Aval sha'ar nashim manichem, but the biers of other women may be set down in the street. So in other words, according to this Gemara, at any rate, they did make a eulogy for women in the time of the Mishnah, and effectively he's shrunk the context. He's shrunk the semantic impact of this Mishnah. Velo shel nashim le'olam, those of women are never set down. He's shrunk this just to a very small number of women. Going on with this theme, we've said before that the Mishnah in Moed Katan seems to operate like a chain. It goes from subject to subject, but each subject loosely connected. Nashim ba Moed ma'anot. Women may wail during the festival. So we're talking about wailers, maybe even professional wailers who are wailing to mark the death of a person. So they do wail during the festival. Aval lo matapchot, but they don't clap. Seems like, again, we're learning really about mourning in the time of the Mishnah. Seems like on a regular day they would wail and clap, but on Chol HaMoed they would just wail. Rabbi Ishmael Omer hasmuchot lamita matapchot. Rabbi Ishmael says those that are close to the beer clap. The halacha, I think the Rambam comments that the halacha does not go according to Rabbi Ishmael. And then the Mishnah goes on to say, on Rosh Chodesh, on Chanukah, on Purim, they wail and clap. Menanot u metapchot, bazeu vazeh, on both of these occasions. Aval lo mekonanot, but they don't lament. A kina is, well, we'll see in a minute what is a kina and what is a wailing and what is a clapping. Nikbar hamet lo menanot velo metapchot. After the dead's been buried, they neither wail nor clap. So the Mishnah is going to ask, Ezehu inui. What is a wailing? What do we mean by menanot? And inui is the noun form for the verb menanot. What is a wailing? And the Mishnah answers shekulan or not kechad, when everybody answers in unison. So then, what is a kina? What's a kina? A kina is she'achat medaberet vechulan or not achareha. So a lament is when one speaks and all respond after her. And now the Mishnah will bring a pasuk shene'emar and this is from Jeremiah. Velamdena avnotechem nehi. Teach your daughters wailing. This seems to be all of them together. Ve'isha ru'uta kina, and let each woman teach her neighbor a lamentation. A lamentation seems to begin with one woman teaching, in other words, one woman leading and her neighbors following. And now the Mishnah concludes, and this is the end of the Mishnah of Moed Katan, and we can see that the compilers of the Mishnah, they don't want to end the Mishnah of what is essentially a happy time with a definition of what is a wail and what is a lament. So the Mishnah concludes, Aval le'atid lavo hu omer, but as to the future, the text says, Bila hamavet lanetzach. He will destroy death forever. Umacha Hashem Elokim dim'a me'al kol panim. And the Lord God will wipe away tears from all faces. Umacha Hashem Elohim dima me'al kol panim. The Lord God will wipe away tears from all faces. This is the close of the Mishnah of Moed Katan. Hadran alach Masechet Moed Katan Vehadrach alam. We will return to you, tractate Moed Katan, and you will return to us. Da'atan alach Masechet Moed Katan v'da'atach alan. Our mind is on you, tractate Moed Katan, and your mind is on us. Lo nit neshe minach Masechet Moed Katan velo tit neshe minan. We will not forget you, tractate Moed Katan, and you will not forget us. Lo ba'alma hadain velo ba'alma da'ati. Not in this world and not in the next world.